Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar, Recession Proofing Your Nonprofit. I'm just going to give everyone a minute or two to trickle in. If you'd like to pop into the chat what nonprofit that you're with and where you're tuning in from, feel free. I am from the lovely and extremely hot right now, Sarasota, Florida, and my wonderful co-host, Amanda, is from New York City. I really want to thank the OR Group for co-hosting this webinar with us today. Amanda has a wealth of knowledge to share, and we're super excited to share it with you all. So we do have a lot to cover today, and hope you all find the content to be extremely helpful and insightful, especially while we're going through these times of economic uncertainty. So we'll be shedding some light onto areas, and we encourage you to focus on right now the things that we're going to go through throughout this webinar and how to do that successfully. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll go ahead and jump into it. All right, here we go. All right, so we got our welcome. What I would love to do now is just go over the agenda for today. So we're talking about quite a few different things. We're going to start with some context. So first, we're going to go over how recessions change fundraising. And then we're going to talk a little bit about why non-cash asset fundraising is important and its value at a time like this. Then we'll go into maximizing fundraising revenue from existing areas. We'll talk about donor retention versus donor acquisition, effective younger donor acquisition, and then we'll take some time for questions at the end. So just a little housekeeping here. Want to remind you all to please put your questions in the Q&A box as we go. Amanda and I will take the time at the end to answer those, so we'll try to get to as many as possible and try to stick around as long as you can. However, we will be sending a recording of this webinar within the next few days, as well as the slide presentation. So if you want to watch it again or share it with a coworker, we encourage you to do that. In addition, as a part of our follow-up email, we will be also sending you some exclusive bonus content, which we hope that you will all find useful. So let's go ahead and get into introductions. My name is Carly Evans. I am the Senior Nonprofit Partnerships Manager over at The Giving Block. I've been here for about 1.5 years now, and I do come from a background in development. Most recently served as an Associate Director of Institutional Giving at a Performing Arts Foundation at a local nonprofit in Florida. Previous to that, I was a Major Gifts Officer at the Bob Woodruff Foundation in New York City. So I definitely know all the challenges that you all are facing right now, and we're looking forward to giving you some insight to help. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Amanda.
Thanks, Carly, and hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today, and it's great seeing all of the organizations and geographies represented here. So really enthusiastic that we can provide you with some helpful information as you're thinking about uncertainty in the future. Really quick introduction for myself. I'm a vice president at OR Group. As Carly mentioned, I'm in our New York office, but joining you live from Brooklyn today. Our organization has been around for 30 years. I've been a part of it first as my very first job over 15 years ago. And then I spent the rest of my career in higher ed working at the Wharton Business School and Columbia University in a lot of different fundraising and development and strategy roles. And then about 2.5 years ago, came back to OR Group, and it's been really great to have an opportunity to learn about a lot of different types of fundraising, learn from a lot of different organizations across the nonprofit sector, and have opportunities to collaborate on conversations like this as organizations are thinking about how to be innovative, how to tackle these problems. So really looking forward to this today. And I think on the next slide, I'll just sort of set the stage here by talking about how recessions change fundraising. We wanted to just really quickly talk about what happens, what can happen, and for all of the scenario planning that organizations are doing, thinking about how to avoid some of the negative things we saw during the last recession, and position yourself effectively if something does happen with the economy. Again, our goal here today is to help you in planning to be successful with that. But one thing that really occurred to us as we were preparing for this is avoiding this penny wise and pound foolish model. And that's something that organizations we know as they're planning and trying to prepare for uncertain revenue scenarios, they do often look at cutting their staff and reducing overhead. And that's not an uncommon practice. It's not an unhealthy practice, but it's something that we wanted to talk about today. And on the next slide, in particular, the difference of how different sized organizations often face this. We know that smaller organizations are more agile, and hopefully they are less likely to cut staff because they don't have the same amount of overhead that they're navigating. When we think about larger organizations, we have seen that pattern in recessions where they are more likely to cut overhead and more likely to think about staff and reducing staff in that way. One thing that we wanted to highlight on the next slide is about how to avoid some of these pitfalls. These are strategies that really matter and things that we see with organizations going through economic recessions and instability. Organizations that think about these in a strategic way position themselves more effectively for what's on the other side. So one area that, for any of us who've spent our career in the nonprofit sector that we know is critical is to continue to invest in your fundraisers and in your revenue generators. It's really expensive to rehire and retrain, any professional in the development sector. It slows your growth in any setting, but in particular, when there's a recession and the economy slows. And it's something that we know too, with COVID and a lot of the disruption happening in the job sector, a lot of us are experiencing it right now, and we know firsthand how disruptive it is. And so as we're thinking about planning for the economy, not disrupting that further. And that's something, especially for small organizations, it's really important to be focusing on to retain those staff members, to retain those revenue generators in particular, to plan for what's heading into the future. And similarly, with strategies, we know from our work at Org Group that it is more disruptive to start a new fundraising strategy and then stop it than it is to not do it at all. And so it's important as we're heading into this uncertain economy to think about what are the fundraising strategies that you want to continue to invest in and stick with them. So when you're thinking about new donor acquisition, it's really important that you continue to focus on that. Carly will be talking a lot about that today and some strategies that are effective there. We don't want to forget our existing donors. It's really important to steward them. And that's something in your fundraising careers, but it's critical during economic uncertainty that you continue to engage those existing donors. And we were debating about this, keep making the ask. We think it's really important. Other organizations will ask them for money. And so you're not going to know whether or not they're willing to support your organization unless you ask them. And then you really do need to focus on the stewardship and being tuned into what they may be dealing with in their own personal philanthropy and wealth. And so being really aware of that. And again, needing the staff in order to have those types of artful conversations and continuing to build the strength of those relationships with those donors. So that's just really high level at this point. We're going to dig into some more specific tactics, but wanted to just orient us all there as we're thinking about what's in the near future. So Carly, back to you.
Thanks so much, Amanda. All right, so we're going to jump into a little bit more onto why non-cash asset fundraising is more valuable than ever, especially at this particular juncture. So let's just take a look at these numbers here for the average gift size last year. So your average cash donation came in at $128. These gifts are more likely made from digital asks. These are your recurring donations. They're coming in from direct mail, tribute gifts, appeals, events, galas, you name it. And this is typically how we are marketing to our donors as a way to give to us. As fundraisers, that's just kind of how we're programmed. But as you can see, the average stock donation ranged from about $5,000 to $10,000 last year. and the average crypto gift was $6,500. So really what you're seeing here is those non-cash assets are exponentially higher. Actually in the way of 40 to almost 80 times higher than your average cash donation. So making sure you're getting the most out of your donors is critical, but not in a selfish way. We want to make sure they're getting the most out of their gift and basically from the impact that they want to give, and they're investing in your mission, and we're all working together to move the mission forward. So because both crypto and stock are categorized as property assets by the IRS, this is a win-win. So these non-cash gifts, the donors are getting to take advantage of the tax incentive to offset their capital gains by also giving to a nonprofit an affinity that they love, in turn increasing your gift size. So access to comprehensive assets. So this is a very compelling pie graph here that shows where families are storing their wealth. So this is truly the biggest opportunity for your larger gifts. In my experience, all major gifts have come in by way of stock or other non-cash assets. So don't limit yourself just to those liquid assets. You're going to be missing out on a huge market cap, as you can see here. So especially with inflation going up and the value of your dollar going down, people are not keeping a lot of cash on hand. They are putting it in places to generate yield. So this is another really great slide that I love to show people that's truly laying out the opportunity of having a donor give an appreciated asset. So even though this says crypto, this does apply to stock as well, because they are given both the same tax treatment. And I'm sure a lot of you have a majority of older donors who've probably been invested in the stock market for many years. And if you have younger donors, that's amazing as well. And they're likely sitting on appreciated crypto. After all, Bitcoin and Ethereum are up over 50% year to date and much higher than other aspects of the market. So don't let those headlines fool you that says crypto's dead or whatever those things, headlines that you've been reading. So what this is a comparison slide of how much bigger your gift could potentially be if they are giving by ways of non-cash. So this is a super compelling case for you to be actively fundraising these assets. So this is something I love to talk about, the great wealth transfer. So to expand a little bit on those older and younger donors I just mentioned, it's really important to take into consideration where the money is flowing. So we have $68 trillion that are going to be changing hands. This has already started, but will really be accelerating quickly in the near future. So you have Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X that are going to be receiving windfall wealth transfers, estate gifts, inheritance gifts, and a lot of this money will be coming in by ways of stock to predict a good amount of, and a good amount will predictably come into the cryptocurrency market. So with that donor-centric fundraising, you need to ensure that you're meeting those donors where they're at. And a lot of nonprofits do struggle with that aging donor base and really need to shift their focus on this next gen donors, that this is like by way of future-proofing your nonprofit and making it sustainable for the long haul. These are younger donors that could potentially stay with you for their lifetime as long as you are continuing to cultivate and steward them. So we'll get a little bit into the different generations and how they give. So to break this down a little bit further, you can see here the preferred asset is to given by baby boomers and Gen X is stock. For millennials and Gen Z, it's crypto and stock. So you can see the age difference vary a little bit. And we want to make sure you're leveraging these age groups appropriately. So essentially what we have found, has crypto been an entry point for a lot of these younger individuals to start building wealth. And as they've gotten into that, they've started to diversify their portfolio with stock as well. So here at the Giving Block, we are giving the donor the options to give either crypto or stock. You have the power to engage all of these different age groups and help your donors give in the most tax efficient way, and also giving them the opportunity to increase their gift size. All right, so let's talk a little bit about asset potential. I love looking at this slide because looking at just the crypto market size alone is over $1 trillion and stock is 46 trillion. So nothing to sneeze at. That's huge. As a fundraiser, we sometimes take a back seat to fundraising with stock, and we're much more comfortable fundraising with cash because that's what we're used to. Stock gifts can be a little bit complex, and I'm sure a lot of you have dealt with that laborious process of getting the stock gift in and processing them. So, but you really truly see the potential here. And with 145 million stock users in the US, this is a huge opportunity with just last year alone, over $100 billion in stocks donated. So the beauty of a stock giving program, specifically like one at the Giving Block, is the ability for the donor to make a seamless stock donation. And with that age group, if you're looking again at those Gen Z and millennials, these are people that don't want to pick up the phone. They want it to be fast and painless. So we got you on that. Another thing we love to talk to our nonprofits about is to follow the numbers. And I would just love to dig in a little bit more about the demographic of a crypto holder. So 84% of millennial millionaires own cryptocurrency, and 94% of crypto users are millennial and Gen Z. So your average age of the crypto investor is a little bit on the older side, the older millennial, 38 years old. And their average income is about $110,000, which is much higher than the national average. So not only are they young, they are wealthy, they're technically savvy, they're financially literate individuals, and they're also typically pretty engaged on social media. This is truly your next generation of philanthropists who are young and diverse. So a lot of the times we're hearing that the board is asking, like, why are we still chasing this crypto thing? And this is exactly the reason why. So the next generation is ready to give more and also smarter. So their way to do that is to give more in a tax efficient way. And this is obviously much larger than your cash gift because of the reasons that we mentioned earlier. Another thing can be compelling is showing Gen Z and millennial donors that you're willing to grow and change with the times and support the ways that they want to give. So although the market might be down at the moment, it is still up over the last few years. So again, you hear a lot of mainstream messaging, everything's down, down, down. But if they've been in the market for more than a couple of years, more than likely they're going to be up. So non-cash asset fundraising is strengthening your ask to them because you're providing them with more benefits. They will be making more of an impact to your nonprofit, as well as giving them that tax incentive. All right, now I'm going to pass it back over to Amanda.
Thanks, Carly. This is a question we get a lot from the nonprofits we work with about whether or not it still makes sense for them to explore crypto, given the volatility of the market. And it's really wonderful to be able to talk about investing in your current revenues and also helping them understand that they need to do the work now to set up programs in order to accept crypto, like any other type of vehicle. When the market does return, they need to be ready to maximize on that. And so that's something that when we talk to organizations that are thinking about it, we help them understand, and then it makes a lot of sense. But we wanted to talk about a couple of other strategies, as far as maximizing your existing areas of donors. So the first strategy I'll be talking about is kind of moving your cash donors to blended giving opportunities. The second strategy that we want to emphasize is upgrading your volunteers and key stakeholders into donors, and to launch new programs like peer-to-peer fundraising. And then the third strategy that I'll be highlighting, which doesn't sound all that exciting, but we know in our work is really critical, is around mining your database to capture lapsed donors. I heard a great story this week, actually, where somebody didn't realize they were a lapsed donor. They thought they were a current donor. And so there are a lot of scenarios like that many of you have probably faced. And so we'll be talking a little bit more about that. So to dig into that first strategy around blended giving, there are a couple of things on the next slide that we wanted to be able to share with you. So, as Carly said, a lot of gift officers feel very comfortable operating in cash asks. They are leaving a lot of money on the table. And so one of the things that we think is important to be able to do is to help your team be conversant in other ways to raise funds in order to maximize that giving. When we look at the who, this is a very big range. So it's not as targeted as what Carly is talking about with new donor acquisition with millennials and Gen Z. This is much broader. And so it's really more about your organization's ability to lead all of these areas and then also train your team in order to have conversations with donors in a sophisticated way. So as we said, there are a lot of high net wealth individuals that have assets that you may not be aware of, but if you have a talented team member who's building those relationships, there's an opportunity to learn about other forms of wealth that they may have. It's really critical that you're obviously talking to people who are invested in your mission and helping them understand the vehicles you have and the ability you have to accept a lot of different types of giving vehicles. And when we think about the different kinds of assets and wealth creation, we'll talk a little bit about how crypto is really, evolving, and a lot of wealth is happening on the younger, range. As a fundraiser, when I think about where wealth is being created, I want to make sure that I'm prepared to talk to people who have that wealth creation. I also want to be able to think about the vehicles that they're using. And one thing Carly hasn't touched on yet, but we know is becoming increasingly more and more prevalent, especially with younger donors, are the use of DAFs as well. And the threshold for establishing a donor advised fund used to be much higher, but these donors are sophisticated. They are looking at those tax benefits. And so the threshold now to establish DAFs is much, much lower. And this is another way that donors are using, different types of vehicles in order to make larger gifts to nonprofits. But we also know that it's very hard to figure out who has a DAF. You can't see the amount of money that's in a DAF. And crypto is very parallel in that way. And so then again, it comes down to how you're talking to your donors. So, we all know the importance of your major gifts team and individual giving team, building those relationships and having direct solicitations with your donors and really helping them understand the impact of their giving. So that's not shocking. But where we do see a bit of a disconnect is just in the ability to train your team to be conversant in this ways. And in particular, when we think about blending gifts that may include a planned gift, for example, a lot of organizations don't have the infrastructure and training to help their team members be really conversant in all the different ways to give a blended gift through planned giving, or they may be a little bit scared to talk about somebody's potential death as part of talking about a planned gift. And so we definitely see opportunities to increase training and kind of conversation abilities with your fundraisers to help them feel more comfortable talking about gifts that are not just cash gifts. And so wanted to make sure that we could emphasize that here today, and that in your own infrastructure, being able to provide that menu of different giving options. And so making sure that you are handling everything from an operational perspective about what that looks like, to getting your board members, your investment committee on board with different types of gifts that you may be interested in exploring, actually accepting, and then making sure, again, a super fun detail, that your gift acceptance policies are updated with any of these changes, because you need to ensure that those types of documentations match your operations, match what you're talking to about donors, and again, training your staff to be sophisticated in the language to talk about these with ease. And the when, this is kind of a funny one, but end of year, campaigns, gift renewals, any of these scenarios, these are opportunities to have these conversations. It's not necessarily time bound. And so that's something, again, that we really like about these blended giving options is it's not just something that you can do once a year or a particular time of year. There's a lot of opportunity to continue exploring that. I'll dig into strategy 2 a little bit now more. This is one I really like, especially with the experience I had at Columbia University in looking at the correlation between volunteers and their giving. And there is just a much higher rate of giving at higher levels between people who are volunteering on behalf of your organization. And it's something that, you don't have to just be a university in order to do that. There's a lot of organizations that have a lot of different kinds of volunteers who are really engaged and may be giving like really small amounts. But, if you were able to start a peer-to-peer fundraising program and give them tools in order to reach broader audiences, it's something that can be very, very powerful. It's not for every other organization. You may not have volunteers in your organization, so this wouldn't be an effective fundraising strategy to launch. But for organizations that have those volunteers that are built in, that have, some ease with social media and outreach, there are great ways to empower those volunteers to reach broader audiences. So making it easy for them to become a fundraiser on your behalf and eliminate those friction points is really important, and optimize their personal outreach, their connection, their spin on why your cause matters. I think it's also something that people think about more comprehensively, that if they may not be able to give you $1,000 gift, but they may feel really comfortable doing some peer-to-peer outreach and helping you raise $1,000. And it's something that we know a lot of donors and a lot of volunteers feel really proud about, and it helps them feel more connected to the mission. And it also demonstrates that they're leaders in this space. And we know that a lot of donors really want to be affiliated with your cause. This is a great way for them to be building their own profile around your mission and be demonstrating their own leadership and commitment to these cause areas. So that's the second strategy. The third strategy that we wanted to go through today is around data. This is something our firm spends a lot of time on. We work with a lot of organizations, whether they're large, small, big data sets, small data sets, incomplete data, but we spend a lot of time looking at current donors and past donors to understand where there's opportunities to re-engage. So we look at, anything from they gave one time to they gave last year to they've given multiple times, but in, sporadic ways. But there's definitely an opportunity to go through your own data and to spend some time analyzing trends that you're seeing in order to identify some of these lapsed donors, also to identify how they're giving, and to think about how you can make it easier for them to give. Say if they did give you a non-cash asset, but it took you some time to actually transact on that stock gift, for example, and you didn't write back to them and you didn't thank them because it took you kind of a few days to get from, the money coming in and then actually reaching out to the donor. And so those are things that in looking at the data, I think you can definitely find new donors, but you can also be engaging your current donors more strategically, more intentionally and proactively, and helping minimize some of those barriers. We also know it's really critical to be educating around these tax benefits. And when you're talking about appreciated assets, Carly was already talking about this with stock and crypto, to be able to talk about the tax efficiencies with those types of gifts. So when you are seeing, data and trends from your past donors around this, being able to speak to them and talk to them about these tax efficiencies and opportunities for greater tax efficiencies in the future with larger gifts. And again, making it really easy for them to do that. We also think it's really important that when you're looking at the data, it helps you understand the urgency and the timing, and you can see patterns, obviously, of when in the year people are giving, and making sure that you're minimizing any delays for that gift. So I think that's important, again, when you're thinking about the urgency of your giving and what the data can show you about the timing for some of these donors. There'll be trends that you're seeing. And if there's anything on your side that's making it more difficult to accept these gifts, whether they're cash or non-cash assets, again, just minimizing those barriers. And then finally, a theme throughout all of this with your current donors is the importance of stewardship and gratitude. We know that when it gets really busy at the end of year, it's hard to make those calls. We love seeing volunteer programs where you bring in your board members to help make those calls to provide you with more scalability and capacity. So those are some examples that we think are important here, but again, that will help you really maximize your current donor base. Carly, I think we're going to be talking next about donor retention and acquisition.
We are indeed. Those are some awesome strategies. So we're going to go in a little bit more detail here about retaining the donors that we have. At this particular juncture in time where things are a little bit uncertain, you want to be doing everything that you can to ensure you don't have a lot of donor attrition. So retention is always less expensive than acquisition, and the formula is pretty simple. So ensure donors know the difference that their gifts are making at your organization, and ensure they feel seen and appreciated. So exactly like what Amanda was saying, gratitude, following up with impact reports, still maintaining all those touch points with them. Like, even though your priorities might be shifting a little bit, you want to maintain that the donors that you have, even those small donors that, you know, your most loyal donors. You think about like your monthly recurring donors that are giving $10 a month. And it's also an opportunity for you to do like a little more digging on to see, you know, their capacity. So again, super important for you to steward year round and give them lots of opportunities. Like Amanda was saying, volunteer, get more engaged. And then acquiring new donors. So this is something that I hope you're all constantly doing, especially with the wealth transfer that's coming up and seeing the opportunity that the Gen Z and millennials and Gen Xers are having. But we want the same thing to boost sustainability and growth for nonprofits. So that's more donors, new donors, and younger donors. So meeting Gen Z and millennial donors where they're at, the internet, specifically Twitter, is a way to accomplish all of the above. And typically the age demographic is not currently in your donor portfolios, though they are the next generation of wealth. So that is one of the most important points of this whole thing, is making sure you are future-proofing your nonprofit and you're getting ready for the next generation that's going to be coming through. So efficient younger donor acquisition. Fortune definitely favors the bold. So there's a time like what we're in now is where we might want to lean away from what is not tried and true, especially as fundraisers. But this is the time where you truly want to skate where the puck is going, and you really want to lean into that innovation and courageously build new strategies and lead into that untapped donor potential, like those big pools of wealth that we were just showing you, to get those higher average gifts for new donor acquisition. So some of the things that you can engage with are, you know, adding some new things to your tech stack. One thing that has been super interesting that I've been using personally lately is utilizing AI, and there's so much you can do with that. But peer-to-peer fundraising is great, like Amanda was saying, including that non-cash asset language in all of your outreach so your donors know that you're capable of accepting those assets. Fundraising campaigns, we have something at the end of the year called bag season. We have matching funds and a major gift boost match, but you know, we want you to be active with Google ad grants, do work in SEO. We want you to be discoverable, and again, put crypto and stocks on the menu as a way to support your organization. To be honest, I'm surprised sometimes that organizations aren't even accepting stock donations. I know the process can be super tedious as someone that used to have to do that. But it truly is, again, with these younger donors, they want everything to be done online. They want it to be seamless. They don't want to pick up the phone. So this is where, again, technology is going to be your friend. So to explain a little bit about how the giving block works, I'll just give you a little high level overview. So this is our donation widget. It is mobile optimized. We enable crypto, stock, credit card, and DAF donations seamlessly. So we also automatically convert crypto to cash at the time of donation. So you never have to hold on to any exotic asset on your balance sheet. That is one question that we get from nonprofits all the time. So you're never holding on to any crypto. We also automate all the receipting for you. You don't have to manually handle those. This is for stock and our DAF donations as well. So you can put this donation widget on your giving page. We also have a crowdfunding site where donors can find you. We set you up with a dashboard on the back end where we track all of the data and reporting, and also plug into a ton of CRMs, including Salesforce, Blackbaud, and a bunch of others, including different mediums throughout the crypto ecosystem, as well as tech integrations like Monday.com and Zapier, enabling you all to save a ton of time. So if you are interested in learning a little bit more about the giving block, I'll just run you through the setup real quick. You could scan this QR code if you're interested in learning more, but essentially what you would do is schedule a demo with us. We'd have a quick little chat. We would get you set up with your accounts, and then we would have you publish the donate assets page on your site with the donation form. And then of course you'd have to announce that you are accepting crypto and stocks. And now our DAF, which is something we rolled out relatively recently. And then we have a whole crypto success strategy team for you to work with to help you know all the tips and tricks and learn all of the ins and outs of how to do this non-cash asset fundraising and leverage those younger donors. So I'll also drop a link into the chat when we're winding up here in a minute, and then I'll launch a poll if you're interested in talking to either the OR group or TGB to learn a little bit more. But I would love to have Amanda talk a little bit about the great work that they do at the OR group.
Thanks, Carly. We met the Giving Block because we had a number of clients coming to us and asking questions about crypto and crypto philanthropy. And this was a couple of years ago. We didn't have a good answer. So we really wanted to ensure that with the organizations we were working with, that we could empower them to make really great strategic decisions about what it would mean to start accepting cryptocurrency. And we were able to connect with the Giving Block and have a number of clients now that have been working with them successfully. Clients that are closing some. We had a client actually close $1 million gift that they wouldn't have received otherwise if they weren't accepting crypto. We've been really impressed by how the Giving Block has taken organizations through the process, what they need to do in order to make a decision to accept crypto, what their board members need to talk through, the questions they need to ask. So I think if your organization is thinking about crypto or has questions, the Giving Block has been a really great resource for a number of our clients. Our work is definitely different than what the Giving Block is doing. Our firm or group has been around for 30 years. We have an office based in New York, one in DC, but we work with nonprofit clients that are all over the United States, from local community organizations to large federated organizations to international organizations. And we've really evolved with the nonprofit sector over these many years. So our work ranges from developing strategy plans, whether or not it's a new area of fundraising you want to be exploring, if you're planning a campaign. That type of work is where we spend a lot of our time in data, but also in prospect research and working with organizations to build highly customized and optimized strategy plans to expand and scale fundraising. One thing that's fun about our organization is we also partner on implementation. And so you can actually work with us to come in and support your fundraising team or operate as your fundraising team. And that's something that we do with campaigns as well. In addition to campaign planning, actually managing and partnering on your campaigns. We're seeing a lot of campaigns right now. We're seeing some really ambitious $100 million to $1 billion campaigns, and we're seeing non-cash assets playing a really important role in those big, ambitious campaigns, everything from planned giving to crypto to the importance of engaging DAF donors. So it's something, as you're thinking about expanding your fundraising efforts, thinking about a campaign, these are tools that we're finding are really important for organizations that are fundraising some of those big, big numbers. In addition to that work, we also specialize in planned giving, and actually standing up programs with organizations or revitalizing programs with organizations. And we do work as well in recruiting and outsourced HR for organizations looking for that type of support, in addition to leadership, doing work with board members, coaching, training, things like that. So really a full service firm to the nonprofit sector. And, as I was saying at the beginning, it's been really great to work at Org Group and to be a part of a lot of new innovative strategies that are coming up like this. And I would say crypto is one of those ones I could not have expected, but it's great to have partners that make it really easy to meet these donors, to meet them where they are, and to optimize your fundraising efforts in this new way. So really a big fan of what the Giving Block is doing, and a big fan of what it means, to our partners and the work that we're doing across these areas that I outlined. Back to you, Carly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the plug. All right. Well, I think what we're going to do now is answer some questions. I will actually launch a poll if anyone is interested in meeting with someone from the Giving Block or the Org Group. I'm going to launch this now. And then it looks like we have one question in the Q&A. And if you have anything else, go ahead and send that in now. All right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close out the poll. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the poll. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And give me one sec here. All right, now you just get to see the lovely Amanda and I, and we're going to answer some questions. Okay, I'll go ahead and take the first one here. Is it technically possible to receive stocks from non-US citizens from other countries? I don't believe at this time we are doing that. I believe it is just strictly US. So, Aloko, I will look into that, and I'm happy to come back with you with an answer over email. I'll just have to check in with our institutional team. One more about the Giving Block from Nixon. Good day. For someone who has no website yet, can the Giving Block fill in for them? We don't build out any website, so just come back to us once you're up and running. All right. Well, I'm just going to check the chat and see if there's anything else. What do we see in terms of renewal rates for donors giving crypto stocks or blended gifts? I'm not sure. Amanda, do you want to take on, at least for the Giving Block? That's not something that I look at because I'm on the partnership side. But we do see donors coming to us that have like a little bit more of a complex gift. And that's why we decided to add on stock and not just necessarily be super crypto native, because sometimes, say their crypto bags might be down and their stock might be appreciated. So we just want to give the donor the option of how they want to give. So whatever asset is appreciative that they want to give at that time is what we're seeing. But those blended gifts are definitely something where I think a lot of people are leaning into right now. And like Amanda said, like DAF giving is huge now as well. So I think just overall, people are choosing to give gifts in that manner instead of just giving that cash donation.
I would say what we are seeing with clients is on like stock and blended gifts, or through vehicles like DAFs, annual gifts and recurring gifts in that annual way right before the end of the calendar year. So we do see that, and that I think is something that you, again, as I said earlier, you can make easier for those donors. On the crypto side, the market isn't necessarily the same. And so what we're seeing is, as opposed to a monthly recurring gift or a recurring annual gift, it's instead tied to market, upswings. And so I think when you're, again, considering stewarding your crypto donors, building your, crypto donor base, being tuned into what's going on with the market, and timing that with conversations with your crypto donors, or in doing your outreach on social media with crypto donors, being aware of what's going on with the market value of crypto, I think is more tied to the frequency of giving, as opposed to a monthly pattern or an annual pattern that we see with cash gifts or stock gifts, for example. Let's see, we've got another question here. The giving box, a link between the donor and the receiver. That's you, Carly.
Yeah, so absolutely. We do have like a donor community. We have a full partnerships team that is engaging all over social media. Like I was mentioning earlier, specifically Twitter is where a lot of these crypto donors are living and breathing. But in addition to that, we also function as a global crowdfunding site. So right now we work with about 2,000 nonprofits. And as people are going to Google and they're typing in donate Bitcoin, donate crypto, donate Ethereum, they're being sent to our site that's going to populate all the different organizations that we work with for them to find a place to give. So that's kind of the beauty of the product is, number one, we're going to enable your nonprofit to seamlessly accept these gifts. And then we also have our crowdfunding site. So a donor could come to the giving block, type in an affinity that they feel passionately about. They could even sort it by region if they want to keep their gift in their backyard, and then make it seamlessly through that same donation widget. In addition to the being active on social media and also having a crowdfunding site, we also run campaigns all throughout the year. Obviously, like end of year is huge for us. We've done some matching campaigns. And what we do when we launch these campaigns is we provide all of our nonprofit partners with a toolkit and resources. So a lot of this might be novel to you, like what hashtags do I use on Twitter? I'm not even on Twitter. What do I post to announce to people that I'm now accepting these assets? So we have a full crypto knowledge base for you to be able to dig into that and really truly learn about crypto and non-cash asset philanthropy, but also giving you the tangible items that you need to really hit the ground running. So it's for someone like me, like looking at the back end, being a former fundraiser, being like, wow, there's a press release template, email outreach template, social posts, all that good stuff. That is super helpful because we're not saying, let's get you set up and sending you on your way. We're going to equip you with the things that you need to engage with the donor community. Because the last thing that we want to do is have you go post something on Twitter and use like hashtag bit, hashtag coin. So, we want you using all the appropriate language and hashtags and all that good stuff. So that's how we connect you with the donor community.
Carly, I was really interested in some of what you've seen happen in the nonprofit sector more broadly and how you've adapted it on your platform. And one area that I thought was really interesting was the cause area, affinity groups. I don't know exactly what you call it, but if somebody is looking on Google for, environmental Bitcoin giving, that they would be funneled into your website to actually see a group of organizations that accept crypto. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to the things that we just mentioned, we also have something called, actually they used to be called cause funds, Amanda, but now we have changed the name to impact index funds. So this is where if a donor comes to our site and they have an affinity, say they want to help out with all the organizations that are moving forward different initiatives with the environment or mental health or veterans, we have different funds where the nonprofit or where the donor has the opportunity to give to more than one nonprofit. So all of the different organizations on our website that are supporting, say, mental health, they can give to a fund there. And then all of the nonprofits that are pushing forward mental health initiatives will receive an equal slice of the donation. So that's kind of something that we offer as an added bonus of being a partner of the Giving Block. So it's not only just getting those direct gifts into your nonprofit, it's also kind of passive income. And what we have seen within the last year or so is really an uptick of donations coming in through those impact index funds by way of NFT projects, which is super interesting. So we're seeing NFT projects not giving to one specific nonprofit, but more than likely they are giving to these groups of organizations that are helping specific initiatives. So that's another really cool thing about the crypto community. People really want to rally behind different causes and initiatives. And then we'll, pop up something like we had a fund last year with the Turkey and Syria earthquakes where we saw a lot of generosity just flow into there. So that's something that we do as well, just to give the donor another option to give. All right. Well, if that's it from everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. I hope you all found this insightful. Amanda and Core Group, thank you so much. Again, we'll be sharing this webinar with you all within the next couple days. And with those of you that do want to learn a little bit more about the work that we do, we look forward to being in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.